We are Louisiana Indivisible. From New Orleans to North Louisiana, from Baton Rouge to the Bayou, from Shreveport to St. Bernard Parish, from Lake Charles to Lafayette to Leesville. Together, we can defend our democracy. We Are Louisiana Indivisible is highlighting people, politicians, and organizations across the state and region that understand there are no kings but king cakes in Louisiana, and that y'all will always mean all. Listen, share with your friends and neighbors, and help us work for a better tomorrow in Louisiana and beyond.
So the format for today is we're going to start with the Senate candidates, and the three Democratic candidates for the U.S. Senate are Nick Albares, Gary Crockett, and Jamie Davis. Now, understand, Jamie is not here. Is Gary here? Okay, Gary's here. So, Nick, I want you and Gary to come on out. Let's give these gentlemen a round of applause. And so the format is that we're going to let each gentleman make a 90-second sort of introductory statement. Then we'll have a series of questions that they'll both answer. And so our goal is to give you some insight into some of the important issues facing Louisiana voters and their perspectives. And so at this point, let's give them one more round of applause, because it's brave to come to Ruston in a rainstorm. Okay? Okay, well, and if y'all be seated, you can stand up if you want to answer. We're going to have to share the mic back and forth. And Gary, I'm going to let you go first with your opening statement today, and then we'll follow up with Nick. Okay? Fantastic.
Thanks for coming out.
One more second, Gary. And our timekeeper is Kelly, and so she's going to have the little cards that say you've got 30 seconds to go and when it's time to stop. So we're trying to keep y'all on schedule. We're starting a little bit late, but we're going to roll right through this. So go ahead. Yes, sir, Mr. Crockett.
Right. Thanks for coming out. I'm Gary Crockett, and tonight feels like I'm coming back home. I spent a lot of time here during high school at the state rallies. This is where the regionals were held, and I came here for both math and English. Well, I'm from Tallulah, Louisiana. It's not that far away from here, a little less than 2 hours, and I now live in New Orleans. I spent 24 years in the U.S. Navy, and during that time, I was fighting for America, and now I'm back to fight for Louisiana. In addition to that, I own 4 companies, and those companies are in the area of construction, aerospace defense, logistics, and we have an entertainment company as well. I'm here because I want to fight for Louisiana and for the people of Louisiana. I want to be your voice. I want to have an open ear and an open heart. Unfortunately, both sides of the aisle have lost their way. It's time to bring them back and let them hear the voice of the people and let them legislate according to the voice of the people. Again, thanks for coming out.
I'm going to lose the jacket because this feels kind of like a town hall, here. So good evening, everyone. My name is Nick Albares, and I'm running for the United States Senate. I am a husband, a father to 3 wonderful, rambunctious kids who I love having with me on the campaign trail, but they couldn't be here tonight. But I am in this race because I believe that every person is important. Every person has dignity, and our public policies ought to reflect that. When I got into this race, what I saw on the Republican side was everyone fighting each other to be closest to the president. And my promise to you, Democrats, is that I am fighting to be closest to the people. Because what I see on the other side is Republicans slashing Medicaid to the tune of $1 trillion. That starts January 1st, 2027. I'm going to run to reverse those cuts. They're enacting irresponsible trade wars and actual wars costing $1 billion a day. I'm going to serve as a true check on the executive branch. I've spent my life fighting for Louisiana families, working with nonprofit organizations, and serving as Governor John Bel Edwards' policy advisor. And I'm proud to announce tonight that Governor Edwards has endorsed me in the United States Senate race. I look forward to talking with all of you tonight. Thanks for being here.
Well, we've got a lot of issues to cover, but one of the issues that I think is really important is around trust. You know, I think voters have lost trust in elected officials. You know, many of our elected officials, they don't answer the phone at their offices. They rarely engage in nonpartisan activities. They seem to stay in their polarized bubbles. And so our question is, how will you serve all the people of Louisiana? How will you ensure transparency and accountability in your office, especially around public spending, investment in Louisiana, constituent services, and how will you earn the trust of your constituents? And Mr. Crockett, you can go first.
Thanks very much. But let me give you some differences of how I would do that. First of all, during the last administration here in Louisiana, even though Medicaid was expanded, there was a lot of fraud involved in that as well. Some estimates up to $1.2 billion of fraud. One of the things that I would make sure is that each dollar concerning expansion would actually touch one of the people that need health care. I'll have an open door policy, and that open door policy means that each time that there's legislation, I will have a website that gives common sense to what this legislation means. In addition to that, I will have a survey at the end of each one of those pieces of legislation so that I can hear from the voters, so that I know which way to vote. I'm not trying to go to Washington to be part of Washington rhetoric. I'm going there to be the voice of the people and to vote the will of the people. Transparency is important, but in addition to the transparency, doing everything with you in mind. Thank you.
I was at a town hall the other day in New Iberia, and after we finished, a gentleman came up to me and said, "You give me hope." He said, I haven't felt hope in a long time. And what we see out of Washington right now are politicians that want to tear us apart, tear the fabric of our communities apart. And I'm running to center dignity, to center solutions, and to center results. Because when we come together, we are capable of great things in this country. When we demand that billionaires pay their fair share, we're able to fund the investments that are required for a thriving society. And in my office, constituent services are going to be focused on a results orientation. Every person I hire, I'm going to say, how are you going to get things done? Whether this is a state issue or a federal issue, what is going to be your philosophy about how you provide answers to everyone who makes a call to our office, everyone who shows up? That's what I'm about. Thank you so much.
You know, economic development is a really important issue, and here in this region, it seems like everybody's really excited about Buc-ee's opening in Ruston. But, you know, there are really not enough opportunities for high-paying jobs in our region, and many think that there are not enough supports for local small business and local entrepreneurs in the region that hasn't seen enough economic growth. So here's the question. What is your plan to strengthen job creation and Louisiana's workforce pipeline, especially for rural and underserved communities? And how can we keep our talented young people who are recent college grads from Tech and Grambling in the region? So, Nick, you go first this time, and then Gary.
So with economic development, we need to invest in the skills of the 21st century. With a rapidly changing economy, we need to make sure that our universities and our community and technical college system has the resources needed to meet the in-demand trades of today. When I worked with Governor Edwards, we put in place programs at Louisiana Delta Community College that provided pathways for people who received Medicaid to get into new careers. You know, I always say in workforce development, you know, we start with trying to get people a job and then a better job, then a career, the ABCs. But right now we have an administration that's slashing funding for colleges, slashing Pell Grants, and funding for HBCUs. I would reverse that and make sure that through the appropriations process, Congress invests in our communities, especially our rural communities that need the jobs, that need the training, and that need the support.
Thank you. So first of all, I'm not a politician. I'm a problem solver. I'm a creator of jobs. That's the reason why I have the companies that I have. So the first thing that I would do is not give you things that are pie in the sky and generalities. Cybersecurity is very important around this globe. Some of the contracts that we have are with the Cyber Command, which is in Augusta, Georgia, also the Missile Defense Agency. Right now in Augusta, we have training where when kids leave high school, they can work for the federal government or for one of its contractors, making at least about $80,000 per year. That's something that can happen here at Louisiana Tech, at Grambling, and throughout Louisiana. In addition to that, there are some kids that are not going to go to college. College isn't for everyone. And that's what we have a need for HVAC, electricians, and plumbers. What I'm going to bring is practical sense to job creation for the people of Louisiana.
The next question is about data centers. The building of the new Meta data center in Richland Parish is getting positive and negative press coverage as the economic impact, job creation, and long-term impact on the region in terms of effects on the electric grid, water usage, environmental impact. So what are your concerns about the development of this big data center in Richland, as well as the data centers in other parts of the state, how they might affect utility rates, access to water, economic development in the region, and what can you do to help protect consumers of electricity and other services who might actually, one of the unintended consequences may be facing higher utility costs. So, Nick?
So AI data centers, you know, when we have ChatGPT or Facebook, Google, all of the websites we use are now using some form of AI. But these AI data centers, they take energy, a lot of it, as we know, and they take water, a lot of it. And these data centers are being put in some of the poorest communities. And the technology is moving at a breakneck speed. So we need a robust regulatory regime around data centers so that they're created in such a way that centers community and that ensures that billionaires like Elon Musk are the ones that are paying to clean up the mess that they're creating, that they're the ones that are investing in the power so that rates aren't going up for everyone. And look, this administration has cut funding for renewable energy. We need to reinvest in renewables and in the clean energy transition so that that power can be used to power all of the needs that we have and bring down rates across the board.
So for data centers, they shouldn't be in our backyard. Data centers around the country are usually in areas that are not population dense. In addition to that, data centers are usually where utility rates are not high like they are here in Louisiana. So what we need for data centers from the federal level is regulation, monitoring, and governance. The same way we do with nuclear power plants. They can't just be anywhere. Noise comes along with data centers in addition to the pressure that they put on the grid. Data centers should have their own source of power for that reason. It's the same way when any other company comes in or industry, they don't rely upon charging the rest of the voters for what they consume. In addition to this, there's noise pollution with the same data centers. Data centers only create between 50 and 100 jobs at the end of the day. So despite the fact that they tell you about the billions that are invested, it's a fallacy. There's something on the front end for the construction, but there's nothing left for the people at the end of the day because most of those 50 to 100 come from somewhere else in that same company. Thank you.
Much of North Louisiana is dominated by timber and agricultural land. Because of the inconsistent use of tariffs and the impact of foreign military actions in Iran and the Middle East, many farmers in the region are being squeezed by higher costs for supplies, equipment, fertilizer, and seeing the cost of doing business going up. In addition to the elimination of USAID and other national policies, local farmers are seeing the market options for their agricultural projects diminish. So in your opinion, what is the role of the federal government in addressing the needs of the agricultural economy in Louisiana? And what are your priorities to protect Louisiana families? Do you want to go first, Gary? Sure.
Okay, so I grew up here, so I know exactly what happens up here. We have to be more innovative concerning our crops. And we also have to give farmers better education as to what needs to be grown based upon market pressures. It's not enough to say, let's rotate your crop. It's not enough to say, these are the new products that are on the market. It's time for us to start having our own seed. One of the problems with farmers today is that a lot of the cost is because of companies like Monsanto and others, where they can't continue to grow what they have always grown, that they have to keep going back to the bank, meaning Monsanto, in order to get seed. The same way for chemicals as well. In addition to that, Washington should only help to increase the pricing on the harvest. They should give support on a regular basis, but not Band-Aids. The problem is that there have been continual Band-Aids for quite some time. Now it's time to have a holistic solution for all farmers in Louisiana.
So as it relates to tariff policy, so that's a part of that. That's something that's raising prices across the board. And the trade wars that we've gotten into are irresponsible and reckless. We can talk about targeted tariff policy. That makes sense. But to engage in a trade war that then causes other countries to impose retaliatory tariffs, that's going to increase prices for farmers, for consumers, for everyone. Recently, there was a ruling that struck down some of the tariffs, and companies are getting that money back, but not consumers. That's the kind of recklessness that this administration has led us into, and that the Congress is doing nothing to put a check on. Since the war in Iran began, gas prices here in Louisiana are up by more than 40%. And that is costing everyone at the pump, and it's having a trickle-down effect on everything that we're buying, from food to fuel to all the needs of the agricultural industry as well. And so I look forward to being here, to listening, and to finding true and lasting solutions, but not going along with whatever the executive branch says they want to do.
Across North Louisiana, many families still do not have access to high-speed internet services. So students and families are not able to be fully effective in a modern economy that is dependent on technology. If Meta and Amazon are building major data centers, should these companies be required to invest in the start of technology for consumers across the region? What are your priorities to address the technology infrastructure of rural Louisiana, address the need for cost-effective and reliable electrical grids, and ensure access to modern technology for Louisiana schools, families, and businesses? So, Nick, you can go first on this one.
So the short answer is yes. These technology companies should be paying to make sure that everyone in every corner of this state has access to high-speed internet. We need to set bold priorities because just like in the rural electrification projects of days past, we need to make sure that high-speed internet gets out to our community so that people are connected, so that people have access to training and online classes and connectivity all throughout this region. And I want to just bring something home to everyone. Talk about billionaires and making sure they pay their fair share. I do a little thought experiment and put it in terms of time. 1,000,000 seconds is 11 days. 1,000,000,000 seconds is 31 years. If these billionaires have enough money to last them multiple lifespans, they have enough money to make sure that everyone here in Louisiana has access to good, reliable internet.
Well, unfortunately, the last administration let us down. And unfortunately, that was John Bell Edwards and the Democrats. So yes, we received federal funding for broadband, but there are places like Tallulah, where I grew up, that still don't have broadband. We still have to rely on other companies for our internet. And it's not just there. We should have broadband throughout this state. So when we talk about transparency and where this funding goes, we really don't know other than it going to those partners. Concerning the technology companies, it's not their responsibility. I own a technology company as well. It's not their responsibility to provide internet for everyone. But what we can do when we come into a place and we build a facility, we can make sure that along the way that we provide the infrastructure for high-speed internet to everyone along that path. That we can do. But what we need to do on both the federal and state level is ensure that when we send funding to this state for broadband for each of our citizens, that it's implemented and the people receive it.
Gun violence seems to be on the rise in Louisiana with numerous high-profile shootings. Many people are concerned about access to mental health services, efforts to reduce youth violence in gangs, and efforts to keep guns off the street. The Louisiana political environment focuses on the constitutional right to carry a gun and open carry, and instills the proliferation of guns in every community. What policy options do you support to reduce gun violence, improve community safety, improve access to mental health services and other services to help improve the quality of life in our communities? Nick?
So this issue is really personal to me. About 3 years ago, I was sleeping in my bed with my wife, and I heard what I thought was somebody knocking at my door, like banging on my door. Well, it turns out that sound was someone shooting multiple rounds of gunfire into my neighbor's unoccupied vehicle next door. I rushed to the door, and in so doing, seemed to startle the gunman, who then turned the weapon from the street towards me, firing 7 rounds into my home at me and my wife, luckily missing me. This person is now in a mental institution and has never gone to trial because he hasn't been deemed competent to stand trial. We need to make sure that we invest in mental health care so that people like this do not get anywhere near a weapon. We need to have red flag laws so that we can flag those who are a danger to themselves or to the public. We need to have responsible background check policies so there aren't loopholes, and safe storage laws so children can't get a hold of firearms. We need to impose these common sense gun safety regulations because that's needed to keep people and children safe.
So I believe that every citizen that wants to own a gun should be able to own a gun if they have the mental capacity and if they can pass a background check. But in addition to that, I believe there are too many guns here in America. When I look at other societies, when I look at London, where anyone can own a gun, and when we look at the crime statistics between other countries like Japan, they don't have the crime that we have. I really think what Louisiana has done is set up their citizens by the open carry. Because in one voice, they say, hey, we have open carry law. But in the same voice, when you're walking around the French Quarter or other places, if they see a bulge, even though it's open carry, they're stopping and they're frisking. I think they're more concerned about building up their prison population than safety. So with all the guns that we have in Louisiana, crime has not gone down. With all the prisons, and we imprison more people than any other place on this globe, crime has not gone down. It's time for some hard checks instead.
Louisiana is one of the poorest states in the country, and nearly half of our citizens are barely getting by. The question is how do we address some of these systemic challenges to poverty? The federal government is cutting Medicaid, Medicare, SNAP benefits to have devastating impacts on Louisiana families. What do you think is the impact on Louisiana families, and how would you protect them? What policies would you support, minimum wage or others that might address the root causes of violence, including poverty and lack of opportunity? And what is your approach to ensuring equitable funding and opportunity for working and poor people across Louisiana? Here.
Okay, so first of all, minimum wage should be $15 an hour. When I started my companies in 2005, that was the minimum that anyone could make in the company, even if they had no training. And we're talking about people that answer the phone. And the reason why is because they have to have a livable wage. In addition to that, we have to look at what we're doing to our children. We need to make sure that they have something to do after school. And it's easy to say, well, you know what, that is on the parents. We pay enough taxes where we should have some after school programs. Yes, we have Boys Club, we have YMCA, but we also have different centers in our youth departments in our cities that we need to take advantage of. We need to start to give support to our community in different ways to ensure that they're healthy, because healthy people usually make money. In addition to that, it is time that we look from the bottom up as far as taking care of children. We have to expand early childhood education in a way that brings innovation, which helps everyone.
So there's so many policies that we need. We need to support renters and affordable housing. We need to investigate corporate landlords to make sure that there's no price gouging going on. We need to pass the Fresh Food Act that puts grocery stores in rural communities and provides incentives for doing that. We need to raise the minimum wage to $15, and we also need to index it to inflation so that it goes up automatically when costs rise. So we don't have to keep going back and doing it every year. It's been 16 years, y'all, 16 years since the minimum wage has been increased. We need to expand the child tax credit. During President Biden's administration, we doubled the child tax credit temporarily, and it cut child poverty in half. We need to maintain those policies, and we need to expand the earned income tax credit, something that we did here on the state level with Governor Edwards' administration. We need to reverse the $1 trillion in cuts to Medicaid that this Congress has put through to go into effect on January 1st, 2027.
The national focus is on eliminating federal oversight and funding for daycare, early childhood services, and K-12 public education. The current administration has moved to shut down the Department of Education and defund programs. The administration is also cutting funding to higher education and student loan programs. Local colleges and public schools are important to the local economy across North Louisiana. What are your priorities to protect educational institutions, improve access to higher education, and protect access to early childhood and K-12 public education? Nick, you want to go first on this one?
So we need a strong Department of Education that's led by an educator, not a wrestling star, right? We need people who are committed to children thriving, and we need to make the investments to make sure that that happens. And at the federal level, that means setting standards so that children of all learning types and abilities can thrive. I believe that every public school should be immaculate. If we set our priorities straight, we can get there. You know, I'm the proud father of 3 public school students, and we know what it means to invest in public schools. And we need to do it all the way from early childhood through college, through community and technical training as well, so that people of all different backgrounds can get the skills that they need to meet their highest potential in this rapidly changing economy. And so that's what I'm going to be committed to, prioritizing the education of every person in the way that meets their needs in the best way possible.
I don't believe that one size fits all when it comes to education. I believe that each one of us learn differently, but we can all make the mark. I believe that kids with attention deficit disorder can learn and thrive. They do very well at video games, and it takes a lot of attention in order to be successful in playing video games. And the reason for that is because they get instant gratification or punishment based upon what happens during that game. It's time to use our innovation to start making some of our tests similar to video games. We have to look at our kids and we have to meet them where they are. It's the same way with this government. In our legislation, in our governance, it's very important that we meet the people of Louisiana where they are. No more one size fits all, but we have to make sure that we have a solution for all. Thank you.
Louisiana is home to Barksdale Air Force Base and Fort Polk, in addition to many other military installations. We have a very significantly high number of veterans who live in Louisiana. The current administration seems to be disrespecting the career military ranks, cutting services for veterans, and politicizing the military. Do you agree or disagree with the current direction of the Pentagon and the President, and how would you make your concerns known? And what can you do to protect investment in Louisiana military locations, support the serving members of the military, and our veterans? Gary, you're the veteran. I'll let you go first on this one.
Thank you. So Having served in the military for 24 years, having more experience than Fleming, who has 6 years of military experience, more experience than the current Secretary of War, one of the things that I would do is not vote for them to be confirmed to start off. Not give them excuses for their past behavior. Those things are very important. Usually what people have done in the past, they will continue to do if they haven't changed from it, if they sit in denial. What we need to do is make sure that our veterans are not sitting around homeless, that they get the mental health care that they need and other care. We have plenty of land in which to do it. We need to do it with a sense of urgency. When we take care of our veterans, we take care of ourselves. One of the problems we have right now is they're talking about a draft because no one wants to join. If you look at how they're treating others, of course you don't. So we have to be the example. We have to take care of our veterans, take care of our seniors, and it makes a better country for us all.
So first of all, I want to thank Mr. Crockett for your service. And do we have any other veterans here tonight? Could you stand and be recognized, please? Thank you all for your service to our country. You know, I think that when people step up to serve, they're doing it because they love this country, not because of their affiliation with one political party or another. And I think right now what we're seeing is a politicization of the military where there's this false sense of strength. And we see it in the so-called Secretary of War and the way that he comports himself. And it's completely out of line. And I believe that we need to bring dignity back to every cabinet office. We need to make sure that the people that get in those positions are qualified. And as a United States Senator, I will ensure that that is the case. Now, as for our veterans, I worked for Volunteers of America most recently, a nonprofit organization that provides services to a number of different people, but including veterans. In New Orleans, we operated 2 veterans' homes, and then statewide, here as well, North Louisiana, all throughout every part of the state, the supportive services for veteran families to make sure that people who are unhoused and veterans can receive support services needed. We need to continue those and expand those continually so that our veterans have the services they need.
Our last question for the senators is around health care and Medicaid and rural hospitals. The current administration is cutting health care to Medicaid, Medicare, and reducing funding for public health services and vaccines, reducing funding for important research on cancer and other illnesses, and reducing access to specialized care. The healthcare industry is important to North Louisiana with the medical school and allied health school in Shreveport and a network of rural hospitals across North Louisiana. What are your priorities to protect access to health care across Louisiana and in the rural parishes? Gary?
First of all, instead of spending $600 million the past 3 years on prisons, I will put that in rural health care. I think we need better health care in Northwest Louisiana and in Central Louisiana. Most of the health care is down where I live. And we need that health care to be diversified. So some are going to talk about the expansion of Medicaid and things of that sort. What I want for the people of Louisiana is the same health care that the senators and representatives receive right now. There's no reason for you to represent me but have a different level of health care. That's one of the great things about the military. The general receives the same health care that the private receives. There's no difference, and there shouldn't be a difference out here. And that's why the transition from the military life to civilian life sometimes is a little difficult because it makes sense there, and we get here and it just doesn't make sense. So expansion from the child to the seniors is what's really important. And we have to be deliberate about that, not generalities. Thank you.
So when I worked with Governor Edwards and we expanded Medicaid, during his 2 terms in office, does anyone want to guess how many rural hospitals closed? Zero. The number was 0. And that was in large part thanks to the Medicaid expansion. We also expanded health coverage to 500,000 people. That was real. It meant people had access to cancer screenings, primary care, mental and behavioral health services, oftentimes for the first time. I had someone come up to me after a recent forum and she said, Medicaid expansion saved my life. That's what this is about, folks. This is life and death when we talk about these policies. So number one, we need to reverse the $1 trillion in cuts that Congress put in, that Cassidy and Letlow voted for. Number two, we need to restore the enhanced premium tax credits and strengthen the Affordable Care Act. And number three, I'm going to work with anyone and everyone to expand Medicaid further and Medicare.
So that completes the questions for our Senate candidates, and now they'll each make a closing statement, and they'll have 2 minutes for a closing statement. So, Gary, you want to go first?
Sure. So first, I'm going to say this. I want to be your next senator. I will fight hard for you. I will bring money home to each of the 64 parishes. In addition to that, I will make sure that legislation has teeth in it. If we had brought that broadband money here and made sure that each of the citizens had to sign off on it, and the final amount that the contractors received were based upon how many signed off that they received it, things would be different now. That is what I mean by legislation with teeth. I will fight for you as I fought before, and you'll be happy with it. Now, I'm not going to promise you that I'm going to go across the aisle because I won't. I'm not that type of guy. I'm willing to meet anyone in the middle. Because before I vote on any legislation, whether it's authored by a Democrat or Republican, I'm going to ask, what's in it for Louisiana? Can you show me what is here for Franklin Parish? Can you show me what's here for Madison Parish? Because that is what's important. The reason that you're sending me there isn't just about the generalities. It's about what's in it for Louisiana. I'm going there to make sure that in each of the pieces of legislation that is voted on, that there is something in it for Louisiana, or I'll be voting no. As I said earlier, I will make sure that I have a website that shows you the legislation, the common sense of it. In addition to that, a survey. So I know exactly how you want me to vote. I'm not going up there with my own agenda. My primary campaign is self-funded for the same reason. Thanks, and I'm looking forward to your vote.
So once again, I'm Nick Albares, and I'm running for the United States Senate because I believe that every person is important. And our policies ought to reflect that. And Democrats, I believe that our democratic values truly are shared values. That's how we win. I have been rooted in community, and my career has been about making government work for people. And I'm going to continue that fight because I think we all want the same things. We want to step out of our house onto a safe street. We want to be able to have health care that's affordable. We don't want to go bankrupt if we have to have an operation. We want our kids to be able to go to good schools with highly trained, well-compensated teachers. We want to be able to work with dignity and have fair wages. We want to be able to drink clean water and breathe clean air. So, my friends, when we unite around these values, we can create the policy change that I know is possible. And I've talked a lot about healthcare tonight, and it's critically important, and I will fight for that. There's also a deeper issue of the health of our society. And I believe that we need leaders in Washington that are committed to dignity, to solutions and results. We need to end this era of division and hatred and divisiveness. And we need to do it by standing firm in our values and going to every community to listen, to engage, act, and then deliver true results that impact the lives of everyone. I am proud to stand before you as someone who has been endorsed by labor. I am proud to stand with everyone in this fight for dignity. I'm Nick Albares, #1 on the ballot, and I hope to earn your vote. Thank you, everyone, tonight.
Let's give our candidates a round of applause. Thank you, Mr. Crockett. Thank you, Mr. Albares. And then we'll see y'all tomorrow in Monroe. Okay?
Yes.